So I am become a very staunch critic of what we deem today as mental illness. Um, it's typically defined by the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, published by the American Psychiatric Association. That the medical community, the behavioral health field, sort of treated as the Bible of mental illness, most everybody accepts that this is something that's built on sound science and scientific principles. The DSM first version came into existence post World War II, I believe it was in the early 1950s, and it was had like homosexuality as a mental illness and things like that. Just it was completely ridiculous. In early 80s, I believe it was 1980, but it was the early 80s. Was the third version of the DSM was published, where they wanted to make it more scientific language, more clinical language, so that it would be more widely accepted by the medical community. Um, and um, and so it was a group of like 12 psychiatrists, all coming from the same sort of echo chamber of beliefs, who sat down and they basically just came to group consensus. Almost every condition that they deemed as a mental illness wasn't built on any sort of sound science. It was on group consensus from this echo chamber of psychiatrists. But they used scientific language and they used clinical language, and the world bought it into it. The DSM is it's sort of the gold standard that people use to for research and diagnosing and for insurance billing and for prescribing. Um, and it's not built on science. It wasn't. The third edition was built on consensus, and they would group together symptoms and basically create disorders. And But they would omit certain symptoms, like from the group, like, well, I do those kinds of things, so we can't include that. And so in the third and fourth editions, there was something called Axis 1 and Axis 2 mental health conditions in the DSM. And Axis 1 conditions is what you know today as like mood disorders, anxiety disorders, PTSD, ADHD, autism, things along those nature, and disorders of psychosis. Axis 2 were personality disorders, narcissism, histrionic, borderline, things along those lines. Cluster A, Cluster B, and Cluster C personality disorders. And there was a distinction between these two groups, but that was taken away in the DSM-5, which was published in like 2012. Where they updated it. They every 10 years or so they do a major revision of the DSM. So they did away with the Axis 2 disorders, which is a huge disservice, because we go back to what these old Axis 1 disorders were, right? Mood, anxiety, psychotic, trauma related neurodevelopmental, substance use, eating disorders, and OCD spectrum disorders. And so they're almost all of these conditions have overlapping symptoms. And so what are these core overlapping symptoms across many of these former Axis 1 disorders? You have depressed mood, low positive affect. You have excessive anxiety, worry, or fear. anhedonia, which is complete loss of pleasure, irritability, anger outbursts, fatigue, low energy, and sleep disturbances, insomnia or hypersomnia, or both, concentration problems, right? Memory problems, psychomotor agitation, restlessness, somatic symptoms like headaches, upset stomach, diffuse pain without a clear medical cause, without a clear um, 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 medical cause that our medical establishment acknowledges, I should clarify, and social withdrawal and avoidance. Now, let's go back to symptoms of parasites. Parasites, a severe parasitic infection, especially one of the brain, will cause a depressed mood, low positive affect, and parasites thrive in a fearful state as well. So fear, anxiety, worry is also related to parasites. Parasites will create, will strip you of your dopamine and your serotonin and your norepinephrine. Right? They feed off of these neurotransmitters that give pleasure and contentment because this is what they're after. So clearly, anybody with a high parasite load is going to have difficulty getting pleasure through their own body naturally. And this is why so many people with a high parasite load end up addicts, is because their body is depleted of the healthy neurotransmitters from the parasites that are consuming all these healthy neurotransmitters, right? And are denying us our own natural production of these neurotransmitters. So this is the serotonin hypothesis for depression, the dopamine hypothesis for psychosis. It's all crap. It's all crap because it's not that there's just some innate disruption or dysregulation of these things. The reason why these neurotransmitters are dysregulated is because the parasites are feeding off of these neurotransmitters. Irritability and anger, also due to parasites. Fatigue, low energy. You have an army of parasites inside of you. It's going to make you tired, folks. Concentration and memory problems. Again, chronic inflammation due to parasites. Results because of psychomotor agitation and restlessness. Well, psychomotor agitation is also due to parasites. Restlessness. If there are free living parasites in your environment, a natural adaptive response is restlessness, because these parasites will have a hard time latching on to you and targeting you when you are constantly fidgeting or moving. It's a natural adaptive response to parasites. Somatic complaints like headaches, upset stomach, diffuse pain, um, chronic pain is due to parasites. Upset stomachs is due to parasites. Headaches are due to parasites. You're starting to understand that parasites are the cause of so many things that we deem as mental illness. And none of the DSM, they don't mention parasites at all in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. They don't exclude for parasites at all, because our medical establishment denies all of these infections. But obviously, not everything is the result of parasites. Many things that we deem as mental illness or abnormal maladaptive behaviors are the result of extreme trauma and unresolved trauma, largely from childhood, but also as an adult that one can acquire through war or rape or complex trauma of repeated traumas throughout one's life. This is where access to disorders come into place, because access to disorders result from it's a personality that manifests in late adolescence, early adulthood, as a response to unresolved trauma. So these young boys that are labeled with oppositional defiant disorder or conduct disorder, this they're, they're not inherently evil people, but this is what their bodies are training them to act out as an adaptive response to their extended childhood traumas that they can't handle. We heal the parasites, we heal the trauma, we heal the world. Another thing about the DSM that's very, very telling is that, well, I already told you that they would omit certain symptoms. This group of 12 or so psychiatrists, they would omit certain symptoms because if they exhibited those symptoms from the DSM, like, well, we can't name that as abnormal behavior because we do that or I do that. So let's omit that. The most glaring omission from the DSM for mental illness, what we deem as mental illness, is psychopathy, psychopaths. It's not in the DSM. And so it makes you have to wonder how many of those original people who put together the DSM-3 and subsequent editions were psychopaths themselves. I don't know about you, but if there is one group of people that needs to be identified, that with mental illness, it's the people who lack empathy, the people who are deceptive and compulsive liars and manipulators, the people who get pleasure from controlling other people, that people who isolate their targets and cause financial ruin and career ruin and social sabotage. The people who slander people's names, the people who have sadistic tendencies where they get pleasure from other people's suffering, either just observing other people's suffering or causing the suffering. Right? These are the serpents. There is a clinical psychologist in Australia. Her name is Karen Mitchell, and she's identified a new group of personality disorders called predatory personality disorder. Now, this includes traditional psychopaths, and it also includes malignant narcissists. She says that people with PPD, predatory personality disorder, make up about 10% of the population. These are dark personalities. This is also kind of what the dark tetrad alludes to, which is a cluster of personality symptoms of narcissism, psychopathy, sadism, and Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism means that the means the end justifies the means, so you can do great evil if the outcome is going to be beneficial. And so, she's pinpointed that basically the same playbook that psychopaths use, malignant narcissists use, the meaning covert narcissists, people who aren't necessarily overtly narcissists. These are people who are always manipulative and always lying, but coming off and playing the Mr. Nice Guy role. These are the type of people who love to do volunteer work or philanthropy, get involved with philanthropy to sort of signal that they are good people when behind closed doors they're purely evil, and that they're constantly manipulative, and they lie when they don't even need to lie. They can't help themselves but manipulate. They all use the same playbook. I am going to link. Karen Mitchell has a website, and she has an X account, and she has a full dissertation on this subject. I'm going to provide information in the description of how you can follow Karen Mitchell's work. It is revolutionary. That if there is one group of people with mental illness out there that needs to be identified, it is these predatory personalities, because it is these predatory personalities that perpetuate the trauma and create this trauma cycle generation after generation after generation through tons of different means, right? These people are driven for control and power, and they love to dominate those who are kind and pure of heart, the empaths of this world. They feed off of us this loose energy. They have this. It's almost like they're pre-programmed to seek out those with kind hearts, to just extract the kindness and the healing energy that comes from those with kind hearts, but then to place those with kind hearts in very submissive, subservient positions where and then blame these people with kind hearts. So many people who turn to coping through dissociation or substance use are victims of these predatory personalities, and it's just a coping means. It's not. But then those people who are coping through either dissociation or substance use are blamed for the coping mechanisms that have been a source of strength, that have allowed the person to survive and endure repeated traumas. The DSM is complete bullshit. It is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual, sadistic manual by the American Psychopathic Association, right? Not the Psychiatric Association. Psychiatry is a scam form of medicine and science. It really is. So after the DSM-3 was published in the early 80s, there was a text revision in the DSM-4 around 1992, and then the DSM-5 around 2012 or so. It's all crap. It's all related to infections. Our medical establishment denies, and many of these infections are done intentionally, where people are intentionally infected with these lab-grown parasites, and then deemed as mentally ill. Oh, there's another important part, caveat, that I'm also forgetting as well, and that's through the targeting program, targeted individuals, right? Who are repeatedly subjected to gang stalking, harassment, people paid and trained or rewarded to come in and provoke good people by the enemy. And then there's the covert weaponry that they use, not just through intentionally infecting us with lab-grown pathogens, but also through directed energy weapon attacks, Havana syndrome attacks, things that directed energy weapons that can cause crippling brain fog and fatigue and disorientation. These microwave radio frequencies, electromagnetic weapons, that the person receiving them doesn't know what's going on, why they're struggling so much. Or even the more diabolical weapon is the voice to skull technology, voice of God, V2K technology, where through radio frequencies they project sounds that go into just a single person's ears into the brain, and these voices, like a radio, is being transmitted in a person's brain. These voices is if you report these voices, they can deem you with schizophrenia. But this is not your traditional schizophrenia. The traditional cases of schizophrenia arise in the late teens, early 20s, typically from toxoplasmosis infections, which is a protozoan brain parasite. But these V2K voice to God tech voices can come up at any time in a person's life when this technology is used on somebody, and it's completely distinct from the traditional cases of psychosis, what we deem as psychosis. Um, I we need to identify the psychopaths of this world. And another important part about Karen Mitchell's work is that psychopaths aren't just your typical Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper types. Okay, they're most of them are far too intelligent to get caught, and they use covert means to attack people, like through directed energy weapon attacks, like through intentional infections, where they have plausible deniability. Obviously, through slander and all these other things, they will weaponize medicine, the mental health, the behavioral health community. They will weaponize the criminal justice system against their targets, against their prey. And I've been the target of I've been the prey of these predators my entire life. But this 10% of the population, many of these predatory personalities are the narcissists, the malignant narcissists of our society that are in positions of power and influence. They are all throughout. Many medical doctors are predatory personalities. Many people in the behavioral health field, be it psychologists, counselors, social workers, are predatory personalities. Many of them are teachers. They are attracted to, and then of course politicians and all these other things. These psychopaths, these predators, are attracted to fields where they can be in positions of power and influence over the vulnerable. This is their innate programming. They're demons. They are the serpent energy of the book of Genesis. And then they wield parasites and other things as weapons. This is these guys are demons. They are devils. They are the of the reptilian brain, right? They fake everything, all emotions or whatever, except for control and sadism, which gives them, amps up their dopamine. Is when they control, manipulate, and lie, and derive pleasure from other people's suffering. They're sick individuals. Unfortunately, pretty much any person or group in influence today in Western society is one of these predatory personalities. And the DSM is horseshit. Mental, what we deem as mental illness, is horseshit. We heal the parasites, we heal the trauma, and we hold the these predatory personalities that are doing great harm on the general population accountable. And mental illness vanishes, it disappears. Anyways, but yeah, these guys are doctors, they're lawyers, they're CEOs, they're politicians, they're counselors, they're psychologists, and they work in like child protective services. It's we live in Babylon. We live in an epic time of evil, but once this information gets out there and that we can identify, all the good people can identify all these true criminals, all these truly controlling, sadistic, predatory personalities, then everything shifts. People with kind, pure hearts and pure intentions need to be put into positions of power and influence. And we can heal the world. We can solve all these problems. We just need a complete restructuring of our society. And the only way this is going to happen at this point is through divine intervention. I follow by faith, not by sight. And I'm taking each day one moment at a time. The only moment I can control is the here and now, and I'm doing the best I can, and that's all we can do. So God bless everybody. Stay true, stay you, and keep shining your light. Keep speaking truth, and don't conform to our evil, psychopathic, predatory system. because that's exactly what it is. Keep your intentions pure. Keep your heart pure. God bless. Bye.